Hey, what's going on, guys? And in this video, what I'm going to be doing is basically a season preview of the Florida Gators' upcoming season, except I'm not going to be doing a game by game, week by week win loss record prediction. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is tell you which games I'm most confident that Florida can win, and which games I'm not so confident about, and which games that I think is a 50-50 matchup. This isn't, like I said, it's not going to be a win loss record prediction. That's going to be reserved for the summer. Not only will I be doing this with Florida, but I will be doing this with other college football teams. Except those videos will go on the second channel because, as you saw in the my recent community post, I'm going to be doing Florida Gator coverage on this primary channel, but other videos not related to Florida, whether it be other college football teams, NBA, UFC, NFL, maybe even college basketball, who knows, or maybe even baseball for all we know. Those kinds of videos that are not related to the Florida Gators will go on that second channel. So here it is right here. The Florida football schedule is obviously the orange and blue spring game is going to be on April 13th. And then on August 31st, their season will open against Miami. Then they'll play Sanford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, bye week. Next three games after that: UCF, Tennessee, Kentucky. That's homecoming if you don't know what HC means. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and then Florida State. So we're gonna start off right here with the Miami game. Now, Miami uh, is a 50-50 game in my opinion. Here's why it's a 50-50. Because both coaches, Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier, need this victory. You could maybe even argue that Billy Napier needs it just a little bit more. But both of these coaches have been disappointing in their first two seasons at their prospective schools. Uh, Billy Napier 6-7 his first year, Mario Cristobal 5-7 his first year at Miami, and then the next year Mario Cristobal goes 6-7 and Billy Napier goes 5-7. So uh, oh, excuse me, no, Mario Cristobal goes 7-6, and Billy Napier goes 5-7. So both of these coaches are swapping, I guess, bowl eligibilities years. 1 year, Billy Napier makes a bowl game, Mario Cristobal fails to make it, and then the very next year, Mario Cristobal makes a bowl game, Billy Napier fails to do that. But this is a 50-50 toss-up because while it's a must-win game for both head coaches, both of these teams are going to make critical mistakes in this game because they both have had that happen in their tenures. Mark Cristobal has made a ton of mistakes as the Miami head football coach. Losing to Middle Tennessee the way that he did. The game in Duke in 2022 when he had 8 turnovers in that game, which is unacceptable by any performance of a head coach, regardless if he is in his first year at a program or not. Couldn't score a touchdown in full regulation in 4 overtimes against Virginia, and then needing another, uh, and then still being able to win that game, but also needing another overtime period just to beat Virginia. I mean, this man is 5 overtime periods away from back-to-back losses against the worst program in the ACC. And if you're the worst program in the ACC in a bad conference like that, that is saying something. And that's what Virginia is. They're the worst program in the ACC. And Mario Cristobal almost lost to them twice in back-to-back years, needing overtime to do so. The giant blunder he had against Georgia Tech with the kneel down. We're not going to go over that again. Just getting out muscled and out coached by Rutgers in their bowl game. You know, the way Pitt went just blew Miami out at the end of that year, and Pitt wasn't even really that good of a team last year. The turnovers against North Carolina State, the bad penalties they had in the Louisville game, which they quite frankly woulda, they could have won and should have won if it wasn't for those penalties, and it would have given Mark Cristobal his biggest win ever as a Miami Hurricane coach, because Louisville was, I think they were 9-1 heading into that game, and by beating Miami, they clinched a spot in the ACC title game against Florida State. And Billy Napier obviously has had his struggles at Florida. Bad performance against USF. Uh, after the losses to Arkansas and Vanderbilt, the way Florida just got absolutely dismantled and disintegrated by Oregon State. mental mistakes against Utah last year with the special team errors. Special teams error that cost Florida a victory against Arkansas. The way his bad play calling in the Florida State game. It's just mistakes after mistakes after mistakes with Billy Napier. The way his recruiting class fell off after that 5-game losing streak to end the season. Now, granted, Billy Napier did make some changes to his coaching staff, all the way Cristobal did after Miami's bad season in 2022. And regardless of how mediocre it may have been, it did result in 2 more victories. And I think having a 7-win season would do good for Billy Napier, provided the teams that he can beat as well. So this game to me is a 50-50. Samford, I'm not going to get into that. That's a confident victory right there for me, I think. Texas A&M, that to me is another 50-50 matchup. Mike Elko is a very good football coach with the way you saw him develop the players at Duke. He goes back to Texas A&M where he's familiar because he was their former defensive coordinator. He knows the area. He knows the players. He's assembled a pretty good staff over in College Station. But it is year 1 at a new program, and it's early in the season. If this game was like in late October or early November, I would have feared this game a little bit more, regardless where it would be at. But since it's early, to me that's there's still some bugs for Texas A&M to work out, and their first game of the 2024 season against Notre Dame, so that's not an easy opponent. Maybe Notre Dame could provide Florida some ways they could exploit the Aggies team. So to me, that game is a 50-50. Mississippi State, should be another likely victory for Florida. I like Jeff Libby I like the Jeff Libby hire at Mississippi State in Starksville. He fits the legacy of that program, which is throw the football around, air raid. They don't have Will Rogers at the quarterback position anymore. Probably the best quarterback they've had this century, even more so than Dak Prescott. But Will Rogers was a damn good quarterback for the Bulldogs. But they just don't have a lot of talent. This is probably, outside of Vanderbilt and maybe Arkansas, probably one of the least. This is Mississippi State's one of the 3 least talented teams in the SEC, and there's no excuse for Billy Napier, even though this on the road, can't go on there and get a victory. More experienced staff, much better talent, and if Billy Napier is guaranteed to give you 1 road victory a year. He did it with Texas A&M, and he did it with South Carolina, and he can't win any other road game besides that. But if he can give you 1 road victory, it would be this one, Mississippi State. So that's a game that I'm confident that Florida could win. UCF, another game I'm confident Florida could win. Now, it does have a couple of factors into it. It's coming off a bye week, so there could be some jet lag. Gus Malzahn's a pretty respectable coach. Coached in the SEC, obviously won an SEC title. So he has shown that he can scheme and develop against SEC teams, but that was when he had SEC talent at Auburn. He's not going to have that he doesn't have that at UCF. Another thing that does benefit UCF is KJ Jefferson, the quarterback for Arkansas, who beat Florida when he was on Arkansas last year. So he's not afraid to play in the swamp. That is a couple of things going for him, but Florida's at home. Florida has the talent advantage. Maybe there could be some revenge factor concerning the fact that KJ Jefferson will be on the field for UCF in this game. And obviously there's a brewing rivalry between the fan bases of UCF and Florida. Really UCF and Miami and Florida State and Florida with the big 3 in the state. So that's a game I'm confident Florida can win. Tennessee, it's like right between 50-50 and unlikely, but I'm leaning more towards unlikely because Billy Napier is bad on the road. But the reason why I say it's like almost in between 50-50 and unlikely is because Tennessee's quarterback, we don't know what to see from the Nico guy. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. He looks accurate against Iowa, but that's Iowa though. Iowa, you only need about 21 points in order to beat them because their offense cannot score a touchdown to save their lives. So to me, this is probably more so unlikely. Kentucky, I'm going to say not totally confident. I say confident, but I could say a likely victory. The revenge factor for what's happened the last 3 years against Kentucky, the fact that Florida has a pretty good team and that is towards the middle of the year, so they could be hitting their strides. There's some serious concerns with Kentucky revolving around not only their schedule, because they got a tough schedule, but also their quarterback position with Bo Allen and Brock Vandegrift, who transferred there from Georgia. I think there could be a chance. I think there was a time to beat Kentucky. It would be this year for Florida. Then they get the bye week. Georgia and Texas right out of the gate coming out of the bye week. I don't see Florida winning those games at all. Um, it's just they're just not at those teams' level. Now LSU is going to be tough as well, but they do face are going to face Garrett Nussmeyer instead of Jaden Daniels, who's not. And Garrett Nussmeyer may be a good thrower of the football, but he's nowhere near as dangerous with his legs as Jaden Daniels was, which is why Florida has such a tough time. Because Florida was able to go toe to toe with LSU, was able to go heave for heave, but eventually the defense just wore out for being there for so long and from chasing Jaden Daniels around. I just don't think they're going to have those issues with Gus Nussmeier in terms of the scrambling quarterback situation. Ole Miss, I see, unlike, so to me, this game is, I'm going to say 50-50 LSU right there. Ole Miss, unlikely. Uh, you know, they're just a better team right now in the Florida. They have a good quarterback in Jackson Dart. They have a lot of weapons around them. Just a very good Ole Miss program right now. Florida State, to me, that's 50-50 because you don't know what you're going to get out of Florida State this year. It is on the road, and Billy Napier is bad on the road, but Florida State's going to be so different than what they were last year. They downgraded their quarterback from Jordan Travis to DJ Uiagalelei. Now he looks better at Oregon State than he did at Clemson. So maybe under Mike Novell, he can maybe even improve even more. But I just don't fear DJ the way you would fear Jordan Travis. And obviously, Florida State lost so much production from that football team on both sides of the football, offense and defense, last year. And, it's just, but it is on the road. So you all know how bad Billy Napier is on the road. So in terms of 50-50 games, Miami, Texas A&M, and then I'll say LSU and Florida State. So those are 4 50-50 games. Unlikelies are for victories are Ole Miss, Texas, and Georgia, and on the road at Tennessee. And then my confident games for victories are Samford, Mississippi State, UCF, and I'll say Kentucky has a likely victory. So Florida's win-loss range this year, ceiling and floor, in my opinion, because that's what this video is, game to determine what's the ceiling for a football team and what's the floor for a football team, meaning what's the highest point that they could realistically reach and what's the lowest point that they could realistically reach. So with that, I would say let's see, you got four. I would say Florida's could possibly have a 4-8 record as their floor, which would spell the end of Billy Napier. And then I would probably say, if I had to make a ceiling, I would say their ceiling would be 7-5, with the 4 victories, like I said, Samford, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and UCF. And then if they could win a couple of these 50-50 matchups, maybe beat Florida State because they won't be as good as they were last year, like I said. Then Miami, because just like Billy Napier, Mario Cristobal is able to make some critical mistakes. And then you have Texas A&M, which, I mean, it's still early in the season and you don't know. And then considering the fact that Texas A&M is going to play Notre Dame right out of the gate, it's going to be a tough matchup for them, and they could have that loss still weighing on them as they head into the swamp. So there you go. My floor for Florida this year is 4-8. My ceiling for them is 7-5. Which game in between that range do I see record in that range do I see Florida gaining? You'll find that out in the summer when I do my previews and predictions. But right now, this video is simply a ceiling and floor video. So what's Florida's floor and what's Florida's ceiling this year is what this video is about, and you'll see that with other college football teams that I cover on the second channel. So go take a look over there if you want to see my analysis and breakdowns of those teams and their schedules. So that's really it. Florida, I think their floor is 4-8. Ceiling, I think their ceiling is 7-5.